Every day, I diligently bullied the main character. He worked to support the family while I freeloaded. He did all the housework, while I just laid around until the male lead returned to the country, and I naturally proposed divorce that very night. He tied me to the bed and roughly took me. Doesn't master know. When Song Mai came home, it was already past 9 p.m. After cleaning up and showering in the guest room, he finally returned to our bedroom. As soon as he entered, he skillfully knelt down and offered up his belt with both hands. Sorry, I came home late. This was the rule I set for Song Mai. He had to be home by 9 every night and dedicate 1 full day each week. He couldn't do it. He'd have to kneel on the ground and take a beating with my belt. Luckily, Song Moi was obedient and rarely got punished before. But lately, for some reason, he had way more work events. Even punishments became routine. I took the belt from his hands. The cold metal buckle brushed against my palm. Song Mai kept his eyes down. His long, thick lashes cast shadows under his eyes. He gotten thinner lately. Kneeling there, his shoulder blades showed through his pajamas, looking somewhat frail. This isn't right, I told myself. He's the main character. This vulnerable look should be saved for the returning male lead to appreciate, not wasted on me, a cannon fodder ex-husband. I steadied myself and lifted his chin with the belt. Do you know what time it is? 9:27. You know the rules. I flicked my wrist. The belt cracked through the air. 27 lashes. Count them yourself. Song Mai's lashes trembled, but his voice was steady. Yes, husband. The sound of the belt hitting his back was dull and harsh. 1, then another. He knelt perfectly straight. Only occasional suppressed groans revealed his pain. My mood was inexplicably irritated, and my hand shook. The belt missed his back and unexpectedly swept across his neck, where his gland was located, though it had degenerated to almost nothing, but it was still a sensitive spot. He shuddered violently and suddenly bent over. 17. His handsome enduring features were hidden. I could only glimpse his difference from his slightly trembling body. Even getting beaten is this boring work. I threw the belt on the ground and stood up, looking down at him. Remember your place. This kind of thing, I don't want to see happen again. I waved my hand and turned toward the bedded ass. Just looking at you annoys me. Get lost. Behind me came the sound of rustling fabric as he silently stood up. Yes, husband. Rest well. After speaking, he turned and quietly left the master bedroom. I remained in the room when the silence ceased. Finally spoke. Alert May Mail, lead Liang Xiu has arrived in the city, expected to meet main character Song Mai for the first time tomorrow. I stared at the system panel in the void, my fingertips unconsciously digging into my palms. It's finally happening. I got transported into this trashy BL novel 3 years ago, right when the original character had just kidnapped Song Mai and married him, planning to force himself on him, while Song Mai was resisting to the death and about to slit his wrists. Then I transmigrated over. I coaxed and pleaded to get the knife away from him, then took care of him day and night for a long time, both physically and mentally. I didn't dare slack off, afraid that one mistake would leave me with the same fate as the original plot, complete destruction. More afraid that if I looked away for a second, he'd really hurt himself. Fortunately, things didn't get that bad. A year of careful attention proved my sincerity. He finally opened his heart and stopped resisting me, and stopped thinking about self-harm all the time. But that's when the system finally showed up. A cold voice echoed in my head. Beep detected host behavior severely deviating from plot character. Warning 1. If you continue failing to maintain character and advance the plot, the system will judge the mission failed, and you will be completely erased. From that day on, I was forced to wear the mask of a scumbag. I had to shatter all past warmth and push him back into an ice cellar. I fired all the servants and made him handle all housework alone, cut off his income, and forced him to work to support me, set harsh rules with constant scolding and beating, trampling all his dignity underfoot. I watched those eyes that had gradually warmed up turn cold and dark again, finally left with only numb obedience. My heart was repeatedly fried in oil, but the system's progress bar grew slowly and steadily. Humiliation. Value achieved. Liang Xiu is coming back, and I just need to complete the last few key plot points. Finally get sent to a mental hospital by Song Mai himself. Then I can retire successfully. I lowered my eyes. The mission's almost over. I should be happy. But my heart was full of indescribable emotions. Just depressing. I irritably ran my hands through my hair and collapsed onto the bed, burying my face in the pillow. The pillow still held a faint scent. Song Moi's clean smell mixed with soap, bitter and pure. I let myself fall asleep, completely unaware that in a corner of the room, someone was watching my every move with near obsession. After who knows how long, finally calming down with a long sigh. The next day I woke up when the sun was already high. Song Mai was already gone. Breakfast was kept warm in the kitchen as usual, but before I could eat, the system's voice suddenly rang out. Beep. New mission released. Ensure the male lead's project collaboration succeeds, and humiliate Song Mai in front of Liang Shu to draw the male lead's attention to the main character. I stared at those words, ensure collaboration succeeds, and frowned. In the original plot, this project should prove Song Mai's abilities, and be key to Liang Shu's first impressed look at him. Why would I need to ensure its success? Not daring to delay, I immediately got ready and left. On the way, the system roughly explained the current situation. Just disagreements over profit distribution and risk sharing. Originally not a big conflict. But Song Mai didn't know what got into him, stubbornly refusing to compromise. I rushed to Song Moi's company. The receptionist recognized me. Fear flashed across her face, and she didn't dare stop me, letting me go straight to the conference room door. Through the slightly open door, I could see inside. Song Mai stood in the center, spine straight, face tense, obviously struggling to suppress his emotions. And across from him, fingers tapping the table rhythmically, with an amused smile on his face, was the male lead, Liang Shu. Liang Shu's gaze openly lingered on Song Mai. Interested, I suppressed the subtle emotions in my heart and adjusted my expression, then pushed open the conference room door. Song Mai, what are you dawdling around for? My entrance instantly broke the atmosphere in the conference room. All eyes focused on me. Song Mai spun around, surprise flashing in his eyes. Who? Why are you here? Why am I here? If I hadn't come, would I know how useless you are? Ignoring everyone's various expressions, I walked straight to Song Mai and immediately started scolding him. Song Mai, how do you handle things? You can mess up even a simple collaboration. Mr. Liang is doing you a favor by working with you. You really think you're something special? Song Mai's body trembled almost imperceptibly. His head hung lower, lips pressed white, but he didn't say a word in response. Liang Shu's finger tapping suddenly stopped. He looked between me and the submissive Song Mai, his eyes showing more curiosity. I pretended not to notice and turned to Liang Shu. I knew Liang Shu from before. The circle's only so big. We weren't close, but we had the kind of relationship where favors could be asked. Thinking of this, I sat beside him, putting my arm around his shoulder, like a total playboy. Mr. Liang, long time no see. Be the bigger person here. But I've looked at this project. Good prospects. Just do me a favor. How about it? Liang Shu's gaze moved from my hand on his shoulder, slowly to my face. He chuckled and didn't push me away, instead leaning slightly toward me in this position. My gland unconsciously switched to defensive mode. Liang Shu clearly noticed my discomfort and subtly moved closer, near my neck, gently controlling his scent, helping me gradually adjust. As the discomfort faded, I looked at him gratefully, completely unaware that to others, I now looked like I was nestled in Liang Shu's arms. Liang Shu's lips curved up, his gaze casually sweeping over the pale, faced Song Mai across from us. Since you is asking, of course I'll do this favor. I just didn't expect you to care so much. His words were loaded with meaning, and alarm bells went off in my head. Sure enough, he was already testing my attitude towards Song Mai. According to the plot, he should be interested in the resilient Song Mao, and my existence as a scumbag would perfectly trigger his protective and possessive instincts. I absolutely couldn't let him see through me. Thinking of this, I laughed and said loud enough for everyone in the conference room to hear. Care? You're kidding. He's just a dog I've kept for a while. Even if he's useless, occasionally he's gotta guard the house, right? I glanced with disgust at Song Mai, standing there with his head down. If it weren't for him being somewhat obedient, I would have kicked him out long ago. My words were like the sharpest knives, one by one, each one cutting into Song Mai. His face went almost transparently pale, his body trembling slightly, but he still stubbornly kept his spine straight. Liang Shu's gaze moved back and forth between us, the interest in his eyes growing stronger. He chuckled softly. You're still so interesting. Fine. I'll do you this favor. We'll go with Mr. Song's terms. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief, but kept up my careless act, patting Liang Shu's shoulder. That's what I'm talking about. I'll buy you drinks later. The project was settled. The next day, with Liang Shu, through Song Mai's assistant, I got a general idea of Song Mai's schedule. Today dining with Liang Shu, tomorrow inspecting with Liang Shu. The day after attending a banquet with Liang Shu. Huang Shu seemed especially attentive to Song Moi. The collaboration unusually smooth. There were even photos circulating in social media of them at events together. In the photos, Liang Shu was impeccably dressed and charming. Song Mai standing beside him was still thin, but his expression seemed somewhat more relaxed. Liang Shu's hand was even positioned just behind Song Mai's waist. The implication was obvious. Beep. Detected significant warming in protagonist's romantic storyline, consistent with plot development. Mission issued. Please ensure that after the protagonist returns home, you inflict severe humiliation on him out of anger and actively propose divorce. Subsequent plot will automatically converge to the ending. The day Sung Mai came back was a rainy day. His flight was delayed, and by the time he got home, it was almost 11 at night, 2 whole hours past curfew. Outside, lightning flashed and thunder roared as rain pounded against the windows, making an irritating racket. Inside, empty bottles were scattered all over the floor. I was drunk, curled up on the living room couch with no lights on. Only the flickering TV screen cast light on my expressionless face. This was the scene Sung Mai walked into. He seemed surprised to find me in the living room. When he saw me, a flash of surprise crossed his face. But in just a moment, it was covered by his usual submissive demeanor. He took off his rain-soaked coat and hung it up neatly. Then he walked to the center of the living room, just like countless times before, habitually kneeling and pulling out his bout. But I didn't want to punish him today. I turned off the TV, and the living room plunged into darkness. Only the occasional lightning outside provided brief moments of light. In the flickering light, I tugged at my collar, letting it hang loose on my chest, before speaking coldly. Had so much fun, you forgot to come home. Sung Bai's hand froze in midair, but he didn't speak right away. In the silent air, only his suddenly heavy breathing could be heard. But right now, it was like a catalyst, pouring fuel on the nameless fire in my heart. Gone so long you lost your voice? Can't even speak anymore. Or maybe. I stood up and walked toward him, step by step. Following Liang Shu around made you forget who you are. In the darkness, I could only make out his face vaguely. Rainwater dripped from his hair onto the floor. I stopped in front of him, looking down at him. The sarcasm in my voice was about to overflow. Liang Shu really likes you. Even personally drove you back to the hotel. What got you all turned around? Really hit the jackpot, didn't you? Did he touch you? Bite your gland? Does he know that at my place, you're just a dog that comes when called? No. Sung Mai finally spoke. He didn't touch me. He said each word deliberately. Besides you, no one can touch me. My heart skipped a beat. Lightning flashed again, briefly illuminating his face. Pale, with water drops still clinging to his wet lashes. But those eyes looking at me were deep as pools, churning with emotions I couldn't understand. I tried to steady my emotions. I pulled out some papers I prepared earlier from the coffee table drawer. I threw them at him. The papers scattered and fluttered to the floor. I took a deep breath and finally said the words I'd rehearsed so many times. Sung Mai, let's get divorced. The room suddenly fell silent, until a thunderclap broke the silence. In the pale lightning, I suddenly saw Sung Mai smile. So light, so faint, yet carrying something eerily unsettling. The divorce? He repeated those 2 words, his voice low and hoarse. Husband wants to divorce me. Why? Because of Liang Shu. A strong, ominous feeling instantly gripped me. But the system was urging me in my head again. I steadied myself and looked up into his deep gaze. Yes. Sung Mai, I only kept you because I needed a dog to serve me. Now the dog won't listen and picked up some nasty habits. You think I'd still want you? I looked away and kicked at the divorce papers by my feet. Hurry up and sign. Once you're done, get out of my house. Sung Mai didn't look at the documents on the floor. He just slowly walked closer. Rain had soaked through his shirt, outlining his lean, but not fragile waistline. In the darkness, his eyes were startlingly bright, like a predator that had been lying in wait, finally locking onto its prey. That ominous feeling grew stronger. I instinctively stepped back. What do you think you're doing, Sung Mai? I told you to sign and get lost. What am I doing? He repeated softly, his voice low and husky. Husband taught me so. Well, how to serve. How to be an obedient dog. I've always been a good student. He pressed closer step by step, until my legs hit the edge of the couch, and I collapsed onto it uncontrollably. Sung Mai took the chance to lean over me. He bent down, hands braced on either side of my body, trapping me in his shadow. Now master wants to throw me away. Too late. As he finished speaking, he suddenly grabbed my wrists, nothing like his usual submissive manner. His strength was shocking. The tables had finally turned. The belt once used for punishment now bound my hands tightly, making escape impossible. Let me go, Sung Mai, you've lost your damn mind. I was shocked and furious, my pheromones instinctively bursting out to try to suppress him. But he wouldn't be affected by pheromones. He didn't even frown. The overwhelming pressure I released with all my strength meant nothing to him. I frantically called for the system in my head, but there was only dead silence. Massive panic instantly engulfed me, and Sung Mai's fingertips had already touched the back of my neck. His ice cold fingers made in my gland contract. He chuckled softly, then without hesitation lowered his head. Sharp teeth pierced into the vulnerable gland, and pain mixed with an unprecedented feeling of complete invasion. All my strength felt instantly drained. Even my pheromone release became chaotic and weak. I used my last bit of strength to bring up my knees. Let go! Sangmai, what the hell do you want? He finally released his bite and lifted his head. In the darkness, his lips were stained with my blood, giving him a breathtakingly sinister beauty. I was momentarily dazed, but the next second, his leg forcefully and effortlessly pushed my knees apart. His lips nearly touched my ear, hot breath hitting my earlobe. What do I want? Doesn't matter know. His palm caressed my lower abdomen. Once this carries my baby, husband won't want to leave anymore, right? When I regained consciousness, it was already evening the next day. The moment awareness returned, intense soreness and an indescribable feeling of fullness hit me first. I jerked my eyes open. My pupils, dilated for so long, couldn't find focus. But memory came flooding back instantly. The swelling of my gland, the strangeness inside my body, everything reminded me over and over of one fact. I was marked. I didn't know which came first, the absurdity or the shame. I angrily pounded the bed, but it made a series of jingling sounds. I quickly turned my head and noticed that thin gold chains had been placed on my hands and feet. The chains were loose enough not to feel restrictive, but gave no chance of escape either. At the same time, the sound caught the attention of the culprit behind all this. Sang Mai pushed open the door. Husband, you're awake. He changed into clean loungewear, his hair falling softly over his forehead. He looked gentle and harmless. You slept for a whole day. Have some water first, then eat something. He set breakfast on the nightstand, naturally scooped up some porridge and blew on it gently, bringing it to my lips. I turned my head away. Unlock me. I'll eat myself. Sang Mai's hand paused in mid-air, his eyes darkening. But quickly he returned to that calm, unruffled look. Husband, your body hasn't recovered yet. You need rest. I can't unlock you. His tone was gentle, but the content was unquestionably firm. I glared at him, but my body was hungry and exhausted. After hesitating, I finally gave in to the aroma of food. Reluctantly, I opened my mouth and swallowed that spoonful of warm porridge. After the first bite, the rest went much more smoothly. Once I finished eating, and finally regained some strength, I rattled the chains on my hands, and tried to reason with him. Sang Mai, this is illegal imprisonment. It's against the law. He was bent over cleaning up the bowls and spoons. At my words he paused, looking up at me with what seemed like confusion. Against the law, he repeated. So, when husband made me work like a servant, punished me with a belt, whenever you felt like it. Was that legal? I was momentarily speechless. Of course that wasn't legal. It could even be called abuse, but under the system's protection and plot requirements, this world seemed to automatically ignore those unreasonable aspects. Now with the system offline, these covered-up problems had become Sang Mai's weapons for retaliation. That's different. I tried to maintain my authority. That was what? Sang Mai put down the bowl and leaned closer, his fingertips lightly tracing the chain across my collarbone. Training or taming? I was completely out of words. Sang Mai didn't mind my silence. He carefully checked the chains once more before finally standing up. But it doesn't matter what it was. We'll live very, very well together from now on, as long as husband doesn't think about running away. He walked to the door and stopped. You know I can find you. And besides, you wouldn't want others to see you like this, would you? The door closed softly. I was alone in the room. I collapsed on the bed, staring at the ornate crystal chandelier on the ceiling, trying once again to call the system. Still dead silence. I closed my eyes quietly. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Besides, being weighted on hand and foot, without having to advance the plot, that's not so bad, is it? For the next period, Sang Mai took care of me with meticulous attention. Exquisite food, perfect temperature. I didn't even have to use the bathroom alone, no matter how unrealistic my demands. He always tried to satisfy them. Except for freedom, he gave me everything I wanted. But the only times that didn't go my way were the evenings. After being exhausted night after night, I finally understood that when he said he developed my reproductive cavity to make me pregnant, he wasn't just kidding around. Until one night after I was exhausted again, Sang Mai got a phone call. He went out quietly for a long time. When he came back, his brow was slightly furrowed. There's a problem at the company. I need to handle it personally. He walked to the bedside and gently brushed the hair from my forehead. Sleep now. I'll try to be back within 2 hours. Drowsiness was washing over me. I couldn't really hear what he was saying anymore. I just pulled the blanket over myself and hummed softly in response. Sang Mai looked at me deeply, then leaned down and pressed a gentle but possessive kiss to my lips. Be good and wait for me. His fingers traced the chains. Don't do anything that would worry me. And remember, no matter what, don't unlock the chains. Only then did he reluctantly leave the bedroom, looking back every few steps. The front door locked. I lay on the bed motionless. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Just as I was about to fall asleep, a voice that had been silent for so long rang out again. Beep. Collection successful. Detected severe deviation in world line. Emergency mission issued. Break free from control and return to original plot line. All my drowsiness vanished completely. Didn't immediately accept the mission, but asked, First, after a brief silence, the system spoke with a mechanical voice, carrying barely detectable interference static. Encountered unknown signal interference. Forced into sleep mode. Preliminary assessment indicates interference source is related to world rule fluctuation. Host, current plot deviation has reached dangerous threshold. Song Mai's behavior seriously threatens the core storyline. You must escape immediately. Escape? Easy for you to say. I laughed coldly. Why don't you take a look at my current situation? Also, aren't you going to explain Song Moi's current behavior to me? In the original story, he didn't have this hobby of kidnapping his marked alpha ex-husband. Is this world really just a simple book? Or rather, I paused. Are you hiding something from me? As soon as I finished speaking, the usually tight system showed an unnatural pause for the first time. But in just a moment, it returned to normal. Host permission insufficient, cannot access higher level information. Current priority task is to stabilize the storyline. What if I refuse? This time, the system's silence lasted longer than before. The air seemed to crackle with invisible electric currents. Warning: see, if host refuses to execute emergency task, level E punishment mechanism will be triggered. The punishment method, electric shock treatment. Intensity level R. My heart skipped a beat. Electric shock punishment wasn't pleasant. On the very first day the system bound to me, I had experienced it once for refusing to abuse Song Mai. That time nearly killed me, and it was only level E. And this level R. I closed my eyes and gritted my teeth. But the expected pain never came. Instead, the system's voice rang out first. Host shouldn't be stubborn. Accept the task, and the electric shock punishment can be stopped anytime. I was stunned. In a daze, everything recent flashed through my mind. The system's urgency, the rule fluctuations, Song Mai's abnormality. A clear thought broke through the fog. My heartbeat suddenly accelerated. I forced myself to stay calm. When I spoke again, my voice was full of fearful compromise. I agree to execute the task. Don't shock me anymore. Task accepted. Stopping electric shock. The system's voice was condescending. A wise choice. System detects the main character has noticed the abnormality and will come to investigate soon. Host should hurry and escape as quickly as possible. After speaking, without caring about my reaction, it fell silent again. At the same time, the sound of a door lock and footsteps rang out. Song Mai pushed open the door. Honey, I'm back. After a brief appearance, the system disappeared once again. In its place came Liang Tai's sudden, repeated probing. At first, he kept calling to ask about my condition. After being brushed off repeatedly, he changed to requesting meet, but they were all rejected by Song Mai on the grounds that I wasn't available. Finally, one afternoon, Liang Shu couldn't stand it anymore. The sound of a car engine came from outside, followed by the doorbell ringing. I was being held in Song Moi's arms, when I immediately felt his body tense up. He released me, stroking my hair. Stay put and don't make a sound. I'll go see who it is. He got up, carefully checked the chains on my hands and feet, and only turned to leave after confirming they were secure. From a distance and through the door, I held my breath and carefully listened to the movement downstairs. Mai, tell me, what's really wrong with Ayu? Why hasn't he shown up for so long? Liang Shu's voice seemed higher than usual, carrying unquestionable interrogation. Song Moi remained calm as always. Mr. Liang, I've already told you. AU is unwell and needs rest. It's inconvenient for him to see visitors. Rest? What illness requires this much rest? Can't even answer a phone call. Song Mai, don't think I don't know about your history. The way he treated you before. How could you possibly know? Mr. Liang. Song Moi interrupted him, his voice turning cold. This is our family matter. Family matter? I think you're holding him captive. I'm asking one last time. Will you let me see him or not? Liang Shu's voice suddenly rose, carrying the distinctive pressure of an alpha. Even from a floor away, I could vaguely feel that oppressive aura. The situation suddenly became tense, but the system's voice abruptly rang out. Good opportunity. Quick, take advantage of this moment to attract Liang Shu upstairs. This is your best chance to escape. When the mechanical voice finished, I didn't immediately do as it said. Instead, I casually asked, where did you disappear to these past 2 days? That's not for you to worry about, host. Please hurry. Hiding in some corner of my mind, secretly monitoring me, right? Warning: abnormal resistance detected. Initiating forced program. Level Sang electric shock activated. The level Sang shock clearly exceeded the shielding threshold. Fine. Dense pain came from deep within my mind. Not as intense as the previous level E, but impossible to ignore. Cold sweat slid down my forehead, and the chains rattled from my involuntary trembling. It was this faint sound that made the conversation downstairs stop abruptly. Then, footsteps rushed up the stairs urgently. The bedroom door was thrown open. Liang Shu stood in the doorway with Song Mai right behind him. The system was excited, showing no trace of the past few days of silence. Excellent. Quick, ask Liang Shu for help. Go with Liang Shu and leave this place completely. But before I could react, Song Mai spoke first. Want to leave? Too late. His eyes were startlingly bright, looking directly at some presence in my mind. Found you, you sneaky thing. The mechanical voice paused for a moment, followed by increasingly panicked warnings. Warning, warning, plot deviation detected. Initiating forced correction program immediately. The moment those words fell, intense pain, like my soul being torn apart, exploded from deep within my brain. 100 times more intense than any electric shock punishment I'd experienced before. I screamed, clutching my head and curling up, my body convulsing uncontrollably. I saw my face change drastically. He rushed to the bedside and held my trembling body tightly. He spoke to the air, or rather, to some presence in my mind, shouting fiercely, "Get out, leave him alone." Those words struck like thunder. The system's voice carried panic, but still stubbornly refused to stop. Lower life forms cannot interfere with system operations. Target individual song. My confirmed as core of world rule disturbance. Threat level maximum. Initiating emergency elimination protocol. Eliminate Song Mai. The system's voice was cold and merciless. I felt an even stronger destructive energy gathering in my mind, aimed directly at Song Mai, who was holding me. Time seemed to freeze in an instant. What mission, what plot, what elimination? All became irrelevant in this moment. Only one thought became increasingly clear in my mind. I can't let it hurt Song Mai. No. I roared with all my strength, not at Song Mai, but at the system in my mind, expressing my most resolute resistance. At the same time, Song Mai seemed to sense the malice directed at him. A flash of fierceness crossed his eyes. Not only did he not release me, he held me even tighter, while lowering his head to bite, hard into my gland again. This bite was different from previous markings. It carried a kind of violent possessiveness and territorial claim. The pain mixed with a strange feeling like my soul being torn apart. And at this moment, something unexpected happened. I felt a burning power that didn't belong to me burst forth from the gland. Song Mai was biting, rushing straight toward the system in my mind. Unknown energy backlash rule conflict. Cannot parse system core under attack. Static noise. The system's voice became fragmented, full of static, like a radio with poor reception. Error, connection interrupted. Attempting reconnection, failed. The energy rampaging in my mind seemed to meet its nemesis and quickly dissipated. The intense agony receded like a tide. Final instruction, record coordinates, static, system offline. The last few words were so weak they were barely audible. Then everything fell silent. True, complete silence. That cold presence that had followed me like a shadow for 3 years, constantly monitoring me, forcing me, and bringing me endless fear and pressure, was gone. I collapsed in Song Mai's arms, gasping heavily. My whole body soaked in cold sweat, my mind blank, feeling only the exhaustion of surviving a disaster. Song Mai released my gland. His lips were stained with blood, and his eyes still held traces of lingering violence. "How are you? Is that thing still there?" I shook my head. "It seems to have disappeared. I can't sense it anymore." Song Mai's tense body finally relaxed. He let out a long breath, burying his face in my neck, his arms tightening as if trying to merge me into his bones and blood. "It's over," he whispered, his voice carrying barely detectable trembling. "Finally over." After speaking, as if finally free of all burdens, he completely passed out. My heart jumped. Before I could move, Liang Xiu had already stepped forward, supporting Song Moi, and laying him flat on the bed. "Don't worry, it's just fainting from physical exhaustion." Only then did I realize that Liang Ya had watched the entire thing. My mind raced, quickly processing the current situation. "Xiao, I told you everything. Was today also part of your plan?" "Exactly." Liang Xiao nodded. "To be precise, Song Mai came to me to stage this act, with the purpose of drawing out that system in your head. So you guys..." Before I could finish, footsteps sounded as a large group of doctors pushed in equipment I couldn't identify. Liang Shu also took the opportunity to me. "Alright, your task now is to rest well and recover. Whatever you want to know, let him tell you personally when he wakes up. Also..." He paused. "Tell him this time I lost." Song Mai woke up 3 days later. I was dozing by the bedside when I immediately woke at the sound. His face was still pale, but his eyes had regained their clarity, quietly watching me. Awake. I quickly got up to pour him a glass of water. "Drink some water first. I'll have someone make you some porridge and bring it up in a bit." He nodded obediently, just quietly watching me arrange everything. After hanging up the phone, the air suddenly became quiet. I took a deep breath and met his eyes. "Don't you want to explain?" "Explain what?" "Like, when did you realize something was wrong?" He barely hesitated. "The first time I saw you." I was stunned. Though I understood Song Mai should have known everything long ago, I didn't expect it to be this early. "Surprised?" He smiled slightly. "From when you came through, took the knife from me, and clumsily took care of me, I knew. You want him. That person only had dirty desires in his eyes, but you're different." As he spoke, he reached out to touch the corner of my eye. "You'll never know how beautiful your eyes are." Fear, confusion, and that bit of gentleness you desperately tried to hide. At first I thought you had ulterior motives. I waited for you to slip up. But you took care of me for a year so carefully, not even daring to sleep through the night, afraid I... Back then I was thinking, what kind of being is this soul that's taken over my husband's body? But later, you changed. His tone suddenly shifted. You started to change, becoming irritable and cruel, hitting and yelling at me over nothing, treating me like a servant. But your acting was terrible. Honey, no matter how much you controlled the force when hitting me, the struggle in your eyes couldn't fool anyone. And when you yelled at me, your own frowning face gave you away first. I opened my mouth, but couldn't make a sound. Turns out all my disguises were full of holes in his eyes. I kept watching, waiting. I wanted to know. What exactly was forcing you to do this? So your compliance and patience afterward were all an act? Not entirely. Song Mai shook his head, his gaze softening for a moment. At least enjoying taking care of you, craving your occasional tenderness. That was real, but mostly, I was building up strength. I was looking for a way to completely destroy that thing. I knew it would eventually force you to leave me, so I had to be prepared. Preparation meaning marking me, imprisoning me. That's the most effective method, isn't it? Song Mai's fingertips gently traced the chains, marking you, letting you carry my scent. I can interfere with that system's connection to you to some extent. Imprisoning you. He paused, his voice carrying a hint of obsession, was to prevent you from being taken away by it, or doing something foolish. Before I was ready, the truth suddenly unfolded before me. I looked at Song Mai in front of me, his gaze no longer hiding anything. Inside were surging emotions, 3 years of patient observation, a desperate rescue, nearly insane possessiveness, and the deepest love. This love, during those days I thought were humiliation and torture, quietly grew and emerged in the most extreme way. I steadied my churning emotions and asked my final question. How did you know how to destroy the system? He paused, his voice gaining more honesty. Honestly, until the last moment, I wasn't sure this would destroy it. I was just gambling. The system relies on certain rules or signals to exist, and an alpha's glands are the core hub for pheromones and mental power. I was betting that by using mental power to invade your glands, forcing my will and this world's native power into your connection with it, I could completely destroy its operation. But with the previous interference, it was hiding in corners, not daring to show up. I couldn't find it, so I got Liang Shu and staged this whole act. Just to make it appear, so I could give it the final blow. He made it sound easy, but the risks were unimaginable. If he'd guessed wrong, both he and I might have suffered the system's backlash. The consequences would be unthinkable. You're completely insane. I looked at him with lingering fear. He chuckled softly and admitted frankly, yes, I'm insane. His fingertips traced the bite marks remaining on my glands, his gaze obsessive yet tender. From the moment you pulled me out of despair, then pushed me back in with your own hands, I was already insane. I can't live without you, no matter what it takes. He paused, looking into my eyes, asking that crucial question. Now that what bound you is gone, do you still want a divorce? Do you still want to leave me? All obstacles have been cleared. The system no longer issues tasks. All the plot has completely collapsed. And I can finally make choices from my heart. I looked into those eyes reflecting my pale face, filled with undisguised nervous anticipation and a hint of deep-seated obsession and unease. Finally, after who knows how long, I lifted my chin slightly. Before asking that question, shouldn't you unlock these chains first? His breathing hitched, but his face remained composed. Sorry, honey, I forgot. The chains symbolizing bondage were finally unlocked. I rubbed my wrists, got up from the bedside, and walked step by step toward the room's door. My fingers gripped the handle, turned it, and pushed open the door. Song Mai's breathing almost stopped. I chuckled softly, crouched down to pick up the tray by the door, and returned once again. Song Mai imperceptibly breathed a sigh of relief and finally smiled. Honey, you're not leaving, are you? I stirred the porridge in the bowl, without looking at him. You never intended to let me leave, did you? I looked up, meeting his gaze directly. If you really wanted to let me go, you could have given the key to Liang Shu, had him unlock my chains while you were unconscious. But you didn't. If I hadn't brought it up myself, you had no intention of unlocking my chains. If I chose to leave today, tomorrow I'd probably be locked up somewhere unknown. Maybe a basement or a suburban villa, right? Song Mai said nothing, but the obsession in his eyes told me everything. I was right. I put down the porridge and grabbed his chin, forcing him to look directly at me. Song Mai, did you forget that before the system came? I spent a real year getting to know you myself. I understand you better than you think I do. If I wanted to leave, I could have done it long ago, but I didn't. Now I'm staying, not because you have me chained up, and not because I'm afraid of your methods. It's because of this. I released my grip and pointed at his heart. 3 years ago, I pulled a broken person back from the edge of hell, not so some madmen could replace him. I want Song Mai, that fool who would stubbornly love me, even if I abandoned him, and the world abandoned him. The air seemed to freeze. His atoms apple-bobbed, his voice hoarse beyond recognition. I always have been. No, you haven't. I leaned forward, getting close to him, our noses almost touching. You hid that part of yourself, used compliance as a mask, plotting how to drag me into your cage with you. Now the cage is open, and I'm giving you 2 choices. First, keeping a madman, lock me up wherever you've prepared. Then watch us torture each other, until we exhaust every last bit of feeling. Second, I paused for a moment, looking deep into his eyes. Throw away the chains, and learn to trust me. Trust that even without the system's coercion, without chains and shackles, I won't leave. Hearing this, He gripped the sheets tightly, his knuckles white, like a drowning man grasping the only piece of driftwood. Can you promise that? I can't. I answered bluntly. Just like I can't promise you won't go crazy again someday. I don't oppose or mind your possessiveness and need for control. I know that's how you show your love for me. But Song Mai. Normal relationships are always built on trust and choice, not absolute control. And besides, I sighed, looking straight into his eyes. Being restrained really hurts, and I really am in pain. Song Mai fell silent. The choice is yours. I straightened up and pressed the warm bowl of porridge into his hands. Now eat, then get some good sleep. I'm not going anywhere until you make your decision. With that, I turned and walked to the bathroom. Closing the door, I leaned against the door, listening to the dead silence outside. Then a suppressed whimper, like gasp, followed by the soft sound of a ceramic spoon hitting the bowl. He chose to eat. I closed my eyes and slowly exhaled. This might be harder than dealing with the system. Destroying a program only takes one big gamble, but fixing a person requires patience, so long you can't see the end. When I finished my shower and came out, the porridge bowl was empty. Song Mai was leaning against the headboard, still pale, but his eyes were a bit brighter, quietly watching me. I pulled back the covers and lay down beside him, my back to him. Sleep! The person behind me stiffened for a moment. Then a warm body carefully pressed against me. His arms wrapped around my waist, very gently, with uncertain hesitation. I didn't push him away. In the darkness, his breath brushed against the back of my neck, landing on the bite mark that still stung. Honey. Yeah. Does it hurt badly? Obviously. He was quiet for a while. Then a feather, light kiss landed on the bite mark. Sorry, he said, and thank you. Thank you for not leaving. Thank you for giving him a choice. I didn't respond, just leaned back a bit, getting closer to him. This was a signal. He tightened his arms, burying his face between my shoulder blades with a satisfied sigh. I know we're still far from being truly normal. His deep-rooted obsession and anxiety won't disappear overnight, and the shadows in my heart from years of system control also need time to heal. But at least, on this night, the chains are unlocked. That's enough. As for everything else, I nestled in his arms and nuzzled gently. We have plenty of time to deal with it, to heal. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that from now on, without the system, without scripts, all our love and hate, joy and anger, concern,